Well, for you all to think about. I didn't tell you the author's name. Her name is Carol Berkin, Berkin. Um, like I said, a lot of the women at this time had to take over a lot of activities and duties that they never had before. Um, she describes how the women actually and actively participated in the war effort. She talks about how women organized boycotts of British goods. They raised funds for the Continental Army. They sewed uniforms and blankets for the soldiers. She also tells stories of women who served as spies and couriers, and women who fought alongside men on the battlefield. And I bet you can name one of those women. She writes about the experiences the women had. One might be a Black woman who'd been a slave, another a white woman, and they had another a Native American woman, and they were all uniquely and differently affected by the war. She finishes the book by examining the impact that the war had on women's lives. She argues that the war did not lead to any major changes in women's legal rights or social status, because women in that era, they couldn't do anything legally. They were totally under their husband's thumb, and they couldn't get any kind of bank loan or any kind of buy any property or anything like that. Only their husbands, only the men could do that. She does argue, however, that the war empowered women in new ways. Uh, just by what I've kind of already told you, you can see how it did. And I want to tell you a couple of stories that are in here, and then I'm going to be done. I'm not going to be up here very long. The Stamp Act was in 1765, and it required that government issued stamps be placed on all legal documents and newspapers, as well as playing cards and dice. Now, I don't think I knew that part. The mother country, England, had managed to hinder not only the local political leaders, also most vocal members of colonial society, its lawyers and newspaper editors, and those who could take the protest to the street. Now, members of colonial urban, this threat to local government's control also provided by the colony. We have the right to act of British goods until the tax was repealed. Also, when they started repealing the first organized opposition to the British policies. The first political act of American women was to say, no, we're not going to do it. So in cities and small towns, women said no to merchants who continued to offer British goods, and no to the consumption of those goods. And their no's had an immediate and powerful effect. Saying no to the purchase of sugar, gloves, hats, ready-made clothing, their dresses and coats and so on, their fabrics, shoes, and of course, tea. The Stamp Act was repealed in March of 1766. So it was working maybe for a year, probably not quite that long. But the women had a lot to do with that. Their spinning wheels soon started, and they had to be dusted off, a lot of them, because they'd been buying ready-made fabric. But they decided, no, we can do our own again. And they had to teach a lot of the younger women how to use them because they'd never used them before. So they had what they called spinning bees and spinning demonstrations. And they began to appear all over the place, and they post them in the local newspaper. And women once again were spinning and making their own fabrics and their own clothes. So that's one way that they helped fight the war. And there's really a funny story in here that I want to tell you. I think it's funny anyway, and I really liked it. You know, there were women that followed the men in the as they moved from battle to battle to battle. And they weren't always wives. Some of them were cooks. Some of them did laundry and different things like that. Some of them were just there to keep the men company. I think you all get that. But that was one of the things that they did. Let's see. I think this is where I want to talk to you. This is it right here. Marked in my book. I'm sorry. I could be better prepared. Okay. Let me find out where she is. There was black woman. She was a slave. And her master, man that she worked for, got arrested and thrown into prison. I don't remember what for, but anyway, he was arrested and thrown into prison. She didn't like that because she liked him. He was good to her and she worked for him and they got along fine. Well, this woman, they called her Mammy. She was a big woman. I mean, you know, she's probably up like this. She was a big woman. And I expect she was pretty hefty too and pretty strong, okay? She did laundry for the prison. Not only did she take care of things at home, but she did laundry for the prison. So she could get in there and collect the laundry, and she would see her master and talk to him a little bit. Well, they started making plans to get him out of there. And she told him how they would do it, and he agreed. So Mammy, with her basket of laundry probably on one shoulder, is taking clean laundry back. So she goes into the prison. She delivers the laundry where it's supposed to go. She probably kept one of the blankets or some type of thing that she could cover over the basket, or maybe she already had that. But she went to her master. He was small enough that he could crawl inside that basket and curl up. And here she goes, and she puts him back up on her shoulder, and nobody suspects anything because she does this every single time she's in the prison. Well, she just traipses on out, you know, he's going with her. And she had already brought 2 horses and had 2 horses tied up down the road a little ways so they couldn't be seen by anybody else. And she just went on down the road with her basket on her shoulder. Like I said, nobody suspected a thing. And she got her master out. And I think they took off on their horses. And I don't know if they went back to the house or if they went elsewhere. But anyway, she got him out. So I thought that was kind of a funny story that a woman is big enough and strong enough, and he was small enough to get in that basket, and she got him out of there. So that was one of my favorite stories in the whole book. Like we all said in our book reports when we were in 6th grade, that's what I remember anyway. We can go to 8th grade, but this was a very good book. And I hope that some of you will get it, read it, and then maybe share your copy with somebody else. You can get it with Amazon, and it's not very expensive, but it's a good book. I'm sorry, Dorothy, I didn't hear it. Yes, we'll talk about. Absolutely. Yeah. The name of the book is Revolutionary Mode by Carol Perkins. She talks about a lot of the men that were in charge, the captains and the generals and so on. She talks about the Washingtons, both of them. She talks about the wives of the generals. It seems they all spent a winter at Valley Forge. But they were in a nice warm house with fireplaces in every room. You know, they were a lot more comfortable than those soldiers that were out in those little cabins. I'm sorry. But they talk about the women, the wives, and they tell fairly interesting stories about them too. General Greene's wife and her name escapes me right now, but she was quite a character. And they talk about her in here. He was quite a bit older than her. And he didn't care if, when they had a dance or something, if she danced with some of the other soldiers and stuff. He kind of thought that that kind of perked the young soldiers up, you know, to dance with a beautiful lady in a beautiful dress, a beautiful gown. But like I said, there's several very interesting stories in here, and I hope you'll read it. And thank you for listening to me. I know it's not coming out real well, but thank you. And please, when the meeting's over, if you want to talk about anything, just, you know, I'm pretty informal. Just come up and say hi. And if I don't know you, introduce yourself, and we'll just talk a little bit. So I'm here. It's north of a place. Yeah.
I used to go to Wayne City on Bean Day.
Wasn't it fun? It's still,
Do they still do that?
Oh, yeah.
My aunt and uncle had relatives there. We would go and go on Bean Day.
We always had a very nice parade.
Questions? Anybody have questions?
We're just discussing.
Have questions? No questions? Going? I'm not sorry. Okay, he's got a question. Here we go. Okay.
What did they speak about Mary Gillard? I'm sorry. You hear?
About Mary Gillard in the book at all.
Who was she?
She was our first actor.
I don't believe they do.
And she also,
Well, I'll talk about that later because that's what I'm going to be reporting on today.
any other questions? I have a question.
You mentioned about the stamps and the Stamp Act. Now, does that mean this kind of stamp or the little kind of stamp? Do you think? Real stamps. Okay, thanks. Not good at this. You are. You're doing fine.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
No? Bridget? No? Do we have any questions online?
We're good then.
We're good? No questions online? Okay. I'm gonna hand this back to.